Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers.
And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 16, Episode 32. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Friday, Steelers Station, Dave. The players enjoying their bye week. They've been off these last couple of days. We'll return, I believe, on Monday to get ready for Week 6. But until then, a pretty quiet weekend for them and really for us as well, as the news cycle has calmed down for a brief moment in time. So, Dave, how you doing? What are we talking about today?
Oh, sorry. I was going to try to go with a Sheduer Sanders opening
Miming
there,
your answers.
but I realized that doesn't work on an audio podcast. It loses.
It doesn't work for Sheduer either. I don't know what was going on there.
Well, yeah, I hate to kind of open with that, but yeah. People saying people are losing the context and all like that because of what Rex Ryan had said and just needs to keep his mouth shut and not talk and yada yada. So I guess Sheduer thought he was going to be funny and go that route with the mime thing, but with all the stuff pointing at Sheduer throughout the pre-draft process and early on in the season. I don't know. I understand maybe what he was trying to do. I think the execution and how that looks on the back end isn't obviously great when it comes to the optics and all like that. So it just what a mess over there with it. It's better that it's the Browns than it's the Steelers. I will tell you that there. But what a kind of a bizarre, I guess, day for him there. And, you fast forward into what's going on with the Browns this weekend. I will be up with my tea and crumpets early on Sunday to watch the Browns and the Vikings from London, with Dylan Gabriel making his first NFL start. And, obviously on the back end, it's like a free scouting opportunity live that you knock out several things with multiple birds with one stone, if you will, because the Steelers will obviously play the Browns right after their bye week there. So that's all I got to say about that. I guess the other aspect here is Steelers 3-1 heading into their bye week. We're not talking about who's really saying what. This drama going on, that drama going on. It's all about the Steelers are 3-1. There's a good opportunity for the Steelers, I think, to come out of this bye week at like number 2 or number 3 seed, I think, in the AFC conference. And then the other thing that kind of stuck out of me, I think, is there's a decent chance that after this week, 11 of the 16 teams in the AFC had the potential of being under 500 entering week 6. So, I mean, if you're a Steelers fan, no matter how it looks like you got there at this point, this team is 3-1. They're going to come out of this week leading the AFC North after a bye week. They got a chance to get healthy, and they've got two divisional games coming up after the bye against the Browns and the Bengals. So I think overall it's a great day to be alive.
It is. Pittsburgh sitting pretty and can expand their lead in the AFC North without having to do anything this weekend. And Pittsburgh may be the only team above 500 in the division by the time the weekend ends. Baltimore and Cleveland will definitively be under 500, and the Bengals, if they lose, will drop to 2-3. Excuse me. So, yeah, I think it's interesting. I look at the point differential and how funny football can be. Pittsburgh is -2 point differential this season. They've scored 96 points. They've allowed 98. They are 3-1. The Baltimore Ravens are -2 in point differential, scored 131, allowed 133, and they are 1-3, and they're hurting with so many injuries, including likely without Lamar Jackson this weekend. So it's fun with numbers, and it's fun to be in Pittsburgh's position. Long season to go. Pittsburgh was in this spot last year, leading the AFC North for most of the season before they collapse. So we know this story can still play out differently, but you sign up for where Pittsburgh's at every day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we kind of get and we'll have a lot to say about the Steelers at four games in here on we'll take some time out in this show and talk about offense, defense, and maybe even some special teams here through the first 4 games. Just some overarching thoughts when it comes to that. What did you think? I don't want to spend a lot of time about on this, and I don't know how much you watched of it, but the 49ers and the Rams on Thursday night.
Yeah, I'm a bad Thursday night fan. I think I've said this before. I finally broke down and got an Amazon Prime account a couple months ago. I think I'm the last man in America to do so, but I really don't watch a ton of the Thursday night games. I don't like watching games online, so I was kind of relaxing more last night, but following on Twitter. So 49ers feeding the ball to McCaffrey, just really good coaching. It kind of shows the value of coaching, overcoming all the injuries that San Francisco has, kind of the Baltimore of the NFC. They had, no Brock Purdy, their receivers were out. They were missing so many people, and Nick Bosa's done for the season, and yet schematically, they find a way to win. Some crazy moments late with the forced fumbles, the decision-making overall. So it just kind of showed me the value of coaching and how that can still be an elixir to coming over roster deficiencies.
One of my main takeaways, and I hate when it comes to NFL games, when there's talk about is this a trap game or not? I just nobody can convince me otherwise about NFL and trap games. They just can't, because on any given Sunday, I mean, these are professionals. This isn't like I can entertain the thoughts of trap games when it comes to some college games and all like that, because of the talent deficiency sometimes between two schools and all. But it just, in the NFL, man, these guys are professionals. It's the best of the best, and on any given Sunday or Monday or Thursday, any team can beat any team, regardless of injury situations. And I think Thursday night was a prime example of that. And props to the 49ers, because look, not a lot of people gave them a chance. Even later on in this game, it looked like, after all that the 49ers did in this game, still looked like there was a very decent chance, even in overtime, that they'd wind up losing this one. And just on a week to week basis, and Matthew Stafford said this after the game. I don't know if you watched the press conferences after the game of McVay and Matthew Stafford. Football's such an imperfect game, and the bounces of football and one or two plays can make a difference, and obviously injuries. And look, one key injury in an NFL game could realistically decide ultimately the outcome of a game, depending on the replacement player and all like that. Obviously, turnovers play a big part in games and explosive plays. So, my main takeaway was, regardless of the line, regardless of the opponent, man, it's going to take a lot of convincing moving forward at this point for me to entertain the thought of, well, this is a trap game. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, I do. I think it's certainly more prevalent at the college level because of the skill gap, and then also just the youth of college teams, more immature, more likely for a 20-year-old to overlook a team than a 29-year-old veteran who's seen upsets to his team and around the league and probably been part of upsets on both ends before. So, point taken. And you're right, injuries have such a critical factor. But again, last night, the 49ers were a mess. They were beat up. I thought the Rams were going to rout this one. I picked the Rams from the line, the betting line, and the 49ers with a great, coaching staff and scheme of Kyle Shanahan and below showed that can be the great counter to injuries is a great scheme.
I think you were high on Mac Jones coming out, weren't you? What, in that class?
I was. Yeah, I was a big Mac Jones fan, so I felt a slight twinge of redemption last night.
Yeah, he looked good overall in that game. But okay, enough of the Thursday night game. Where shall we go to from here with maybe a little bit of housekeeping? There's not much out there, I don't think.
The Steelers news is light today. We had mentioned during the Wednesday show that Pittsburgh was looking at replacements for Sebastian Castro, the rookie safety who was signed by Tampa Bay to their roster, leaving a vacancy on Pittsburgh's practice squad. So Pittsburgh working out Mark Perry. They also worked out a slew of other defensive backs, and as of this recording, they have not signed any of them. We'll see if that happens next week or they look elsewhere. The team working out Kendall Brooks, Jack Henderson, Maxon Hook, Glendon Miller, and Mark Perry. Most of those guys are pretty young, either rookies or a couple years in the NFL with limited or no NFL experience. So similar profiles across the board. Perry was an interesting athlete coming out of college. Maxon Hook was a really productive safety out of Toledo. I did a scouting report on him before this year's draft. He's a guy that tested well, but just had a ton of production in the MAC, and similar stories for the other guys, some good athletes overall. So we'll see if Pittsburgh signs any of them, but as of right now, they have not. So there's still that one spot on the 53-man roster, which remains open, and one spot on the practice squad that is vacant.
Yeah, as we said on the show the other day, that this might run all the way up to next Saturday before they technically fill that 53-man roster spot, or they might just go ahead and do it first day back after the bye. So we'll sit and wait and see what the matriculation of that looks like.
Coaches were speaking on, I think, Wednesday during the day. We had a lot of assistants on Tuesday. We had a couple more on Wednesday, including DC Terrell Austin. And the most notable thing that comes to mind from what he had to say, which was nothing groundbreaking overall from his entire presser, but he took the blame for that Jordan Addison 81-yard reception, said he called a too complex call in that moment, should have kept things simple. Even had it been a less ideal coverage, the simplicity would have made it just more workable, would have reduced the chance of that coverage bust. And so he did not detail what made it too complex or who blame fell on. I've had the thought that maybe it was Darius Slay. I think Darius Slay's taken issue with that, at least at PFF, because they graded him out pretty poorly in this game, and he was unhappy with that. I would assume that would mean that he was not responsible for the Addison catch, because I think PFF is blaming him for it. So still hard to tell in a lot of ways overall, but Austin taking the blame at himself for, apparently he says he makes the call, which is a side discussion about who makes the calls in Pittsburgh, but he's taking the blame.
Yeah, a lot there to chew on. Not often do you have a conversation of a defensive coordinator getting too cute, right?
Fair.
It's usually you're talking about offensive coordinators getting too cute at time, and I'm not saying that that's exactly what happened, but in a word, he's just saying that he should have been more closer, I guess, to the norm in that situation due to the personnel that he had out there.
Where do you come in on that thought? Chris Hoke was on The Fan, I think, yesterday or sometime recently and said that's not a good enough excuse. Players have to be able to go out and execute and do the job. It's their responsibility. So is this a player issue, or is Austin right to fall on the sword?
Well, look, players have to be able to execute what is called. So, I mean, you're calling it with the understanding that you think your guys can handle it. And I mean, so I don't know, it's a chicken and egg type, I guess, conversation there. I think him saying what he said is just trying to deflect some of the errors that was made within that. But I mean, you know what happens on other busted coverages? Does that mean every busted coverage that happens that you shouldn't have called because it was too complex? You know, so I don't know. You get into some semantics there of chicken and egg, but I mean, you're calling that with the understanding that you think that your guys can execute it, and then after the fact saying, well, you know, the person, you know, there's equal blame to go around.
I think in a lot of cases you put it on the players. In this case, I think it's more fair to put it on Austin because of the circumstances. It was the first play after losing Brandon Echols. Pittsburgh was down to just two available cornerbacks in Darius Slay and James Pierre. They had to run their big nickel 3-safety package, which they do not want to run in obvious pass situation. That's supposed to be used for basically more rundowns against 12 personnel with athletic tight ends. Think Baltimore and those types of teams. That's how Pittsburgh usually employs its big nickel package. And so you're kind of giving a call when Pittsburgh's scrambling. They're really short on depth. Their coverage menu's limited. I think Austin was still trying to have a good coverage umbrella despite that, and probably should have played it a little more simply. He did call a similar coverage. I made this comment the other day. He called a similar coverage earlier in the game when they were in big nickel because they were down corners. So I think he was trying to go back to what they had run before out of that, but was just too much. So, Chuck Clark made a late check there, and that message did not seem to be received. And so that was probably the root of the bust. But I understand Austin taking the blame. I think it's more applicable than just the generic in general. Let me be accountable for the mess up here, because in that moment of the team scrambling and being down so many people, you do want to just keep it simple.
What was the down and distance on that?
I think it was 1st and 10. I think they just got out of their own end zone to play before Jefferson over the middle. Then they hit that deep ball to Addison. I think it was 1st and 10.
All right, let me see if I can pull that up real quick here. That was 1st and 10, Minnesota 18 with 3:25 left in the game.
Yeah,
and the worst
81
thing
yards.
worst thing that you can do in that situation is give up a double, triple, quadruple explosive play, and that's exactly what happened.
Right. In that moment, you want to keep the ball in front, top down, because time is Minnesota's enemy, down 2 scores in that moment. So obviously a game changer, but Peyton Wilson's hawk down saved an extra minute, which is still being praised, and as it should be.
You probably just want to run just a vanilla cover 3, keep everything underneath, and tackle the catch, right?
Yeah, in that situation, when you're down corners, you're running just your base shells, cover 3, cover 2, not even a lot of man because you don't have the corners to go out there and play man. So you're literally just running like preseason vanilla coverage in that moment.
Right.
All right, Dave, what else did the coaches have to say? I don't think there was as much coming out during Wednesday's interviews as there were Tuesday initially. So tell me if anything else stuck out to you. But the Austin comment was the one that really caught my ear.
What did Scott Curley have to say?
From what I remember, they only showed about a minute of his interview, and he just talked about Peyton Wilson making that play, and that's how he practices and go back to training camp. He's running down receivers and playing all out all the time. So it was a really short clip. It was mostly Austin speaking, at least in terms of what was shown on the media side of things. So not a whole lot there from the new inside linebackers coach, Scott McCurley.
All right, and who else talked that we didn't cover from the other day?
I don't know when Dunbar spoke. I don't know if that was Tuesday or Wednesday. Jared Alexander spoke. Some of that stuff may have come out a bit later. I don't know. There's really been a whole lot there from those guys. I mean, Dunbar talked up Benton playing to his talent, so acknowledging that Benton's always had the ability. What do you think was different with Benton in this game? Why did this game feel so different than the last couple?
I think first and foremost, he wasn't on the ground as much.
Okay.
I think in the pass rush aspect, we see him be able to have more success in the pass rush, fighting through some stuff. Run defense, it just seemed like he was able to stay on his feet and not get pushed around as much. Schematically, I didn't see. I mean, schematically, they kind of were who they were.
They were nickel a lot more than they have been this season because they played with the lead, because Minnesota's a base 11 personnel team. So he was probably not playing as much head up nose tackle, but either way, 1 tech, 3 tech, it's not going to make a world of difference. So I'm with you that his hand use was better. I mean, obviously Minnesota had a bunch of injuries along the offensive line, and that played a factor, and they had to throw late, and their run game was taken away. They became one-dimensional, so that's just good for the front in general, which applies to everyone, including Keeanu Benton. But one of the sacks he had was on a rip, and it's maybe the first time he's gotten a sack on something that wasn't the club over. So felt like he was a little more toolsy, a little more deeper into his belt. They ran some good stunts, and they were able to kind of tee off, faced a less mobile quarterback too. So probably a bunch of factors in this one. But Benton's always had the talent. The issue has never been about can he make these plays. He certainly can. It just does he, and can he do so consistently. and you want to see more of that going forward.
Yeah, I think the big points on him, even going into this season, is could he hold his ground a little bit better against the run and not get pushed or turned in holes? And the second thing was increasing his pass rush repertoire, or even against runs. We all know he can do that right-handed club and then arm over, and I think we saw a little bit more in this game is just ability with the bull to push the pocket a little bit, and then as you mentioned, do some other things like the arm under and rip under and all like that, because usually what has been the MO with him is he shows up early in games, gets that center or the guard with the club and arm over, and then gets an early quarterback pressure or hit or something along those lines, and then as the game goes on, they've seen it, and they're ready for it, and it just his ability to come up with additional moves to win with has been the biggest kind of thing looking for out of him moving into this season, and then just his ability to just be more stout in the hole against runs.
Yeah, there's been diminishing returns in this game, so it's good to see him sustain throughout. Still only wins to his right. Even on the Minnesota game, he was still only rushing and winning to his right, but there were different moves, more variety. It was his best game of the season by far, maybe the best game of his career. The numbers will certainly tell that story. So, I mean, the guy is so talented. His bend, his fluidity, the way he's able to turn through contact and get skinny. I don't know many guys in Pittsburgh that have had that ability. I think Tuitt was one of them, a little bit different body type, but similar in terms of the kind of fluidity in his hips and his looseness in his hips. But Benton, it's all there. The world is his oyster. Just can he be a little more technically sound, be a little more stout? If he can do those things, get a second move, got a really good player. But obviously, there's still a lot of work to do to get to that point.
Yeah, and the other thing is you're talking about a guy that's missed his fair opportunities at sacks going into this season, and he's taken advantage of some of these this year now.
How much do you think confidence plays for these young guys? Do you think just them having a game like this for Benton, for Peyton Wilson, how much does that help them? Or is every game still kind of in a vacuum with a bye week that, yeah, you had a great game, but you got to go out there and do it again?
Yeah, look, he's a third-year player. He's played enough snaps at this point. I don't think I don't think confidence is something with him. It's more technique and execution at this point, and now he just needs to start stacking these games together.
Still only 24 years old, just turned 24 this summer, so still a really young guy. But I mean, point
He has
taken.
played a lot of snaps, though.
You're right, right. He's older than his age would suggest in terms of NFL years, if there is such a thing, equivalent to dog years, NFL years. He's certainly wiser, or should be wiser than that, but he's still young. And, I just wonder on a broader psychological perspective, how much confidence plays when you feel good and when you feel confident. Of course, you're playing better. I wonder how much that it's a deep conversation that we won't be able to solve here. We've seen teams that have hired sports psychologists, and that's become more and more popular around the NFL and all sports, professional sports. And so, just the mindset and mentality is one of those hidden things that are impossible for us to see from the outside, but can really impact the arc of a player's career.
I tell you, the biggest thing with him that I really just want to see moving forward is just being more stout in the hole, and being able to kind of hold his ground, like you see some of the better nose tackles when they're asked to play the one or the zero technique, is just be able to, and look, that's hard to do because you get double team. This is a very duo zone league. There's a lot of big guards and big centers across the NFL, and there's going to be a good 6, 7, 8 times in a game where you're asked to just keep things clogged up in the middle and not end up on the ground or turned out of the hole. So I think that's one of the biggest things with me watching with him moving forward is just being able to show that you can anchor within there and clog things up to keep these inside linebackers clean, and let these guys do what we saw them do against Minnesota, and that's kind of a free running Patrick Queen and a free running Peyton Wilson, who both had really good games. And I don't think it's a coincidence that came on the heels of Benton probably having his best game, in a while, at least, if not his best game of his career.
Going to ask a tough question, but while we have the time today, whose game should Benton model his after? And I usually don't like that question. Players get asked about that during the draft all the time. Whose game do you model after? And it's just kind of a meaningless question. They give a name and no one cares and everyone moves on. But trying to find somebody in Benton's situation with his skill set, his body type, playing 3-4 nose tackle. I wonder who he's kind of most comparable to.
Well, look, I mean, you know, Steeler fans want the next Casey Hampton, right? But the game is different now, and he's just not large enough. I don't think, or doesn't have and doesn't have the balance and the strength enough to be that type of two gapping player. You know,
Right, but he's not Hargrave either. That's a
no,
comparison that I've even made occasionally in a loose sense because he's taller. Hargrave was a lot shorter and stouter and more kind of fire hydrant like, and so Benton's 6'4". I mean, a lot of teams would be playing him out at defensive end just because of his size and length profile overall. So that's kind of the thing. Like he's not obviously the old school plugger nose tackle, but he's a little bit bigger than some of these kind of squatty Aaron Donald, Milton Williams, Hargrave types that just get upfield and go wreck stuff.
well, I don't know who best to compare him to, but when I think about a player with his size, his ability, his strength, his athleticism, and all like that, I think a lot of times he's going to have to win getting inside a gap. Okay,
Hmm.
and winning that way. However, there are going to be instances within a game that he is double teamed, that he's got to just be able to holding your ground and just not being moved, even though you don't make a play, can impact a play significantly, right?
Oh, sure, sure. I mean, that keep linebackers clean, especially these fast flow athletic linebackers like Queen and Wilson. When these guys are unblocked and have less trash to sift through, these guys make a ton of plays, and we saw that against Minnesota.
So I don't know who best. I guess it is an impossible question to kind of answer. I just think that when he wins, the best is when he's penetrating gaps.
Do you think Pittsburgh's scheme allows him to do that effectively enough?
Uh, well, I mean, I get some runs though. How are you going to expect a guy? It would have to be quickness and splitting the double team, right?
Well, there's teams that one gap and teams who two gap, and Pittsburgh is a mixture of both. They were the old school two gapping team. There's kind of a mixture now. So the question is, are they doing that enough? Because that's what I care about more than is he playing one tech or is he playing three tech or five tech? Is if he's able to get upfield in one gap and penetrate, that's whenever he's at
At
his
his
best.
best, right? Right. In other words, I mean, we would have to go on a play by play, and then actually, how many times is he asked to two gap? You know.
Right, and we're just talking out loud, but that's kind of what it comes down to in terms of putting players in position to succeed. We know Pittsburgh two gaps. I don't want to say maybe more than most, but a fair amount. I don't know exactly where they would rank, and so we know that that's not when Benton is at his best. So I understand that part of the scheme maybe not being the friendliest thing to him.
Well, the answer to the question is he is best in a one gap system.
Sure, sure. And the question then becomes: is Pittsburgh the right system for him?
That's a good question.
I think there are probably systems that are better for him than what he's currently in, but he still can make plays I think in Pittsburgh scheme. It has become more aggressive enough, and especially these last 2 weeks, they've been a lot more aggressive in terms of run blitzes and one gapping and getting upfield, and that's been I think good for him. In terms of comparison, the one name that comes to mind is Quinton Williams, kind of from a body profile, height, weight, length standpoint. That's probably a name that is closest to where I think Benton would be compared to.
Look, I don't want to call him a Ziggy Hood or anything like that, but I guess where I'm going with this is it would Keanu Benton flourish more in a traditional 4-3?
Yeah, I think so. If that 4-3 was that more upfield penetrating system, yep, I agree. And that's kind of where you're getting the Hood comment because he was kind of best as a 4-3 D tackle, and Pittsburgh had him playing 3-4 end.
Right,
Yeah, because I mean, obviously Benton is a lot more athletic than Hood was,
right.
so I understand kind of the schematic. It's a little almost Kevin Dotson like where they had him playing at a position. And so that's where I think.
Boy, don't send us down that rabbit hole.
I won't. I'm pulling this back.
That guy looks good in a Rams uniform, doesn't he?
Is he still doing well in
Yeah,
LA this year?
I tried to. Well, I don't know. I didn't look at his grade. I didn't watch him all game, but there was about 4 or 5 snaps where I said, because he's easy to pick out too, because he has all he plays right guard, he wears a guardian cap and all like that, and it's and what is he 66? It's just easy to pick out. And there were a couple of plays that the plays that I did focus on him last night. I thought he played well.
Nice. What are your thoughts on Pat Meyer? I know we're midway through the season. We're not here to make conclusions about future coaching staff. That'll be decided when all the hay's in the barn. But what are your thoughts on Pat Meyer?
The offensive line should be a lot further along than what they are. Look, I think they made developments in the run game, obviously, this past week. But thank goodness that they decided to go the route with Spencer Anderson as the offense. If you go, man, you're gonna send me down. I've got 8 rabbit holes open now here.
Take me there. We got some time today.
There's a lot of you go back to kind of what we hit on in the show the other day, a lot of people wanting to put 12 pounds in an 8-pound bag when it comes to the tight end usage and the amount of snaps that Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith played, and obviously the usage in the passing game and all like that. We got charting back from Tom Mead from the game against the Vikings, and if you look at the first quarters and the third quarters, specifically in the snap counts, that Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith, I believe, played a total of, where's my charting here? They each played a total of 4 snaps each, I believe, in totality in the first and third quarters of that game.
Okay, all so right. Split that back. So in the first and third quarter combined, those two played 4 snaps.
4 snaps apiece.
Okay, 4 snaps apiece, so 8 total. Gotcha.
And they were on the field together twice.
Okay.
During that span there. Now, Spencer Anderson in the first and third quarters played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 snaps. he outsnapped. Because that was the mode of operation. You're coming out in the first quarter of the game. You want to establish the run, even though they did pass, a little bit within there, because you don't want everything to just be run when you have the extra offensive lineman in the game. They had success with that. They obviously got a lead in this game, and then coming out of halftime, they had a nice lead. So it's probably a lot of, let's continue to run the ball. Let's bludgeon them a little bit. We've got the lead and all like that. So that's why there's, and the other thing, the other part of the rabbit hole here, and you've already kind of hit on this, and I re-emphasized it this morning. Man, this team has only run 200 and where is it here?
Did you tweet this? I might have missed it.
Yeah, early this morning. 215 plays so far on offense through 4 games. Their most snaps in a single game on offense has been 59. So 215 offensive plays so far, and 6 of those 215 were kneel downs, and only 110 pass attempts as well through 4 games. That's an extremely low average. Now you can talk about, is it a feature, is it a bug, kind of thing. It is what it has been. Now, 1 play 80-yard drives are really going to skew that on top of things. But the fact of my whole train of thought in tweeting this out is it's not a negative as much as it is what it has been. And there's hopefully going to be times where this team gets into the 65 and the 72 offensive plays run. And the more plays that you run is going to open yourself up to more targets and more usage of Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith and along those lines. But you're playing, you're dealt with what you're dealt with. And, I don't like the excuse of the defense and is a reason why the offense, not running more plays at all. Yeah, the offense should have stayed on the field more up until this point. But circling this all the way back to where you started with Pat Meyer and all, I don't think the offensive line as a whole is where it should be 4 games into this season based on the pedigree, presumed pedigree and talent that this team has invested in it. As good as the run game ended up being against the Vikings, there were still instances where there's a lot of meat, it feels like, left on the bone here that's not being maximized.
So as we sit here today and we know things can change by year's end, do you want to bring back Pat Meyer for 2026? I believe his contract is up after this year. I'll have to
No,
try to double check. Okay. So
no.
you believe they should move on?
Right. And I wonder what this offensive line could have been had they followed your recommendation of getting rid of Pat Meyer after this. And really, I mean, it was easy to just agree with you at the time. I wonder how far this offensive line would be at this point had they, entered even last season with a new offensive coordinator. I mean, new offensive line coach.
Well, that depends on who they hire to replace him. And Pittsburgh's track record has been very poor since Mike Munchak. They went through Sean Surratt, who was Mike Munchak's right-hand man, and just kind of gave him the job, literally actually gave him the job on the spot. When Munchak was telling Mike Tomlin he was leaving, Surratt was in the room, apparently, and Tomlin said, "Here you go. Surratt's the guy," and was not the guy for very long. Adrian Clem is one of the worst hires Mike Tomlin has ever made in his tenure. Meyer is not as bad as Surratt and Clem. I think he's got the heart of a teacher, which I think is what Pittsburgh was looking for a young offensive line, but the results simply have not been there. Not even just individually, but the coordination and the unit-wide development in terms of staying on track and their combo blocks. It's just been a lot of messiness overall for a group that's been pretty healthy too. Last year was bumpy, but they've been pretty healthy throughout Meyer's tenure. So the big question is,
Here's the thing: when the
Mhm.
moment they hired Arthur Smith, they should have let him go shopping for what he wanted for as far as groceries on the coaching staff, even if that meant owing somebody the rest of their contract, which the Steelers obviously not are big fans on. They like coaches to play out their contract if at all possible and not owe them any money for just sitting at home. But the moment that they brought in Arthur Smith, uh, now maybe Arthur Smith said, "Yeah, I can win with Pat Meyer and his teaching and what he teaches as far as what I want to run offensively." But that obviously would have been the perfect time to do it.
right, that is a bigger question that's impossible for us to answer, but what is the alignment between Arthur Smith and Pat Meyer? I don't know if Meyer's known for any one particular scheme. Some O-line coaches are known for zone guys, and some are known for man and gap. Meyer seems pretty flexible and willing and able to run it all. They were doing that even before the Arthur Smith hire. But I do wonder the mesh between those two. Now, Smith did bring in a good number of his coaches. He brought in Matt Baker, who's more the pass game side of things. He brought in Mateo Cambu, who's a former offensive lineman, was with him in Atlanta. And so Smith did get to bring some of his guys, but you're right. The offensive line coach stayed whenever Smith was brought on board.
Right. It feels like this group, especially with what you have invested in it in pedigree picks, should be further along than it is. And that's there was a lot to build off of, I think, of this game coming out of Minnesota, but there was also a lot of there were we mentioned that play the other day about the left side of the and look, tight ends included on that left side. Had everybody gotten off the snap of the football at the right time and executed, that run might end up in the end zone or should.
Sure, I mean, it can always be better. If they can replicate those results the rest of the season, my tune may change on Pat Meyer because I think it was a good performance, not just in run blocking, but in pass
Right.
pro too against a tough Minnesota defense, even though Minnesota backed off, called off the dogs and some of their aggressive blitzes. But even if you do replace Pat Meyer, and this is a deeper conversation, we're having it now because it's the bye. There's not a lot going on this weekend. What is the confidence Pittsburgh can replace somebody who will do a good job? Because their track record post Munchak has been either okay. Meyer, I would say, is just a higher, and to really disastrous in Surratt and Clem, who didn't even make it one season before he left and took the job at Oregon. So why do teams struggle so much in hiring an offensive line coach? It is such a key position. It is, to me, Dave, no coincidence some of the best teams in football and teams who have sustained success have really good offensive line coaches. Jeff Stoutland in Philadelphia, Andy Heck in Kansas City, Aaron Kromer in Buffalo. Yeah, Hank Fraley. I think Pittsburgh actually tried to hire Hank Fraley at one point or another. But
is it money?
Well, I mean, I'm asking the broader question: why do NFL teams struggle with that? In Pittsburgh, it may be a financial thing. I don't know exactly if there's a difference between the two, but it's such a key position. And in Pittsburgh, at least, it has been. In Pittsburgh, start with Munchak. When they had Mike Munchak, granted, you had a really good offensive line, you had great talent, you had a lot of guys there, but Pittsburgh has directly felt the benefits of having an A-plus home run offensive line coach, and they have seemed to strike out a lot since.
All right. Well, I mean, here's the hoping that our tune does have to, at least we do have to have the conversation about Meyer because the run game continued to increase. And once again, the game against the Vikings was the best that we've seen this group of offensive linemen perform.
What are your thoughts on Arthur Smith a year and a half or a year and a quarter into his job in Pittsburgh?
I mean, look, they've won a lot of games, and I think the way things, I think he's called some really good games overall through the first 4 games of this season.
Which games in particular were his best? I thought the Jets game was probably maybe his best called game. In Minnesota was probably pretty solid too, but the balance of the run game certainly helped keep that menu open for Smith.
I think more than anything, he would just like, and he's mentioned this, he'd like more plays to run,
Right. Well, but isn't that on some of the offense too?
Sure.
Extend drives?
But it all stems together too. The offensive line play and, look, we can get back. I don't think people want us to get back into the short, crisp passing game and all like that. How much yak and all has come off of that. Personally, I don't think that's sustainable, the 70-something% overall, but it has worked. So if it's working, some people say, don't fix something that's not broken to this point. I would like to see the explosive play rate go up more than 10 total. 0 explosive plays of 20 yards or more on the ground, and this team's still overall struggling to get 10-yard runs and all. So at 3-1, it's hard not to give a guy a passing grade just because you're 3-1. It's so hard to win games. Here's the thing that I continue to go back to, and this stems from the game against the Patriots. It is so hard to win games in the NFL. And yeah, you look at this team overall, they're +7 in turnover differential, and they entered this weekend tied for second in sacks on defense. That's going to, more times than not, probably win you some games, right?
And it's why Pittsburgh has done so well and been so consistent. They've not been negative in turnover differential for a season since 2018, and they've been top 10 the last 3-4 years. They were, I think, second in the NFL in turnover differential last year. They're second, as you said, this year. And we can talk about the complexity of football and scheme and X's and O's, and we do all of that. We talk about player individual strengths and weaknesses and technique, but so much of football is just taking care of the football and taking the football away. And the team that does that the most wins.
Here's a question for you. Which unit's more responsible for this team being 3-1, the defense or the offense?
Oh, that is a good question, because there's been some good and some bad on both sides. I will say the defense has still been more responsible. The offense has had more, I don't want to say more growing pains, but the offense really looked tough until the Minnesota game. Granted, the defense has certainly had its share of problems too, but the defense has been splashy. and taking the football away, and that's been really critical. The Patriots game, the 5 takeaways, without that, they don't win that game. I mean, the offense certainly played much a more complimentary role in the Minnesota game, but the defense still 6 sacks and 2 takeaways, getting some big stops there. So, it's not been as dominant, not as obvious as years past, where the defense is winning you games. Last year, the defense was clearly responsible for the team starting 3-0 and its overall good start. This year is more balanced in a sense, but I would still say the defense overall.
Yeah, I would as well too. And even as leaky as that unit had been to start with, one of the main reasons was those takeaways in that game against New England is why this team's 3-1 right now.
Right. Now, granted, in the opener, the offense won that game. Aaron Rodgers throwing 4 touchdowns.
Mhm.
Defense, not playing great. They got the big stop late. But I mean, the offense won that first game. I think since it's been more scales tipped towards the defense, which is okay. It has felt a little bit closer because I know for years, and this, Dave, and fans know this, it was always when the offense was great, the defense sucked. When the defense was great, the offense sucked. They've not been able to kind of find that equilibrium. And I
Right.
feel like you're a little closer this year. Now, granted, maybe that's in part because the defense is not as dominant as they have been, at least not in the overall totality of the first 4 games. They're playing much better as of late. So maybe it's not because the offense is being great, but the defense is just kind of falling down a little bit, that you balance it out that way. But I do feel like there's an offense that can play more complementary whenever they're at their best than Pittsburgh's had in years past.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you continue taking the football away and you're not giving the football away, what, 3 interceptions so far on offense?
The Rodgers has thrown, yes, 3
Yeah.
picks.
I know one was against Spillane, was a ill-advised throw. One was obviously in the end zone from Calvin Austin.
There was a
It,
late throw against Seattle too,
okay,
downfield,
right,
that
right.
got picked off. Yeah, I mean, because Pittsburgh right now, big picture, is 16th in scoring offense, 21st in scoring defense. Typically not results that tell you 3-1 is coming, but they're 8th fewest turnovers offensively, giveaways offensively, and 2nd in turnovers and takeaways defensively. And that's just an obvious recipe. The teams that do that, I think there's only 7 teams, Pittsburgh included, at least going into last night, that had not lost a turnover battle in any game this season, and Pittsburgh is among them.
All right.
Actually, wait, Pittsburgh, I think, lost a turnover battle in the opener, or no, I'm sorry, I'm reading that backwards. They won the turnover battle against the Jets.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, I'm getting myself mixed up here, but it's such a duh thing to say, win the turnover battle, but Pittsburgh has done it consistently as well as anybody, and it's a reason why they consistently stay in games and play close games. You get those heart attacks in the final minutes, and frankly, why they often punch above their weight. Why a roster that without as much talent seems to hang around with teams who are quote unquote better.
And the takeaways have helped offset the lack of explosive plays on offense.
Yeah, in a sense, it's like talk. Where's Pittsburgh in the talk stat?
I don't know.
Right
We'll
now.
have to look, but we've already said that they've got what, 10 explosive plays in total.
Offensively, yeah, that was the stat from last
Right.
time in terms of 20+ yard plays, and then they got the 10 takeaways, whatever they have right now.
Well, how many takeaways do they have?
They have 10.
10 takeaways. Okay.
I believe so. Looks like it. What PFR is showing me.
All right.
So I don't know where they would stack up. And obviously, after the bye, they're going to be at a disadvantage because they're going to have one fewer game until the bye weeks start to even up more. So this is kind of a good week to check in on these things before everyone else plays their week 5 game. But yeah, key stuff there.
All right.
A quick note from a health standpoint, some hopefully positive news on Calvin Austin, kind of tucked away in a mailbag from Mike DeFabo of The Athletic, says that x-rays were negative on Calvin Austin, the injured shoulder. Still does not know if Austin will miss time, and if so, how much time, but a chance he does not miss any time, or at least misses just a game. So negative x-rays on that shoulder injury. Good news for Calvin Austin.
Yeah. Hopefully, it's just like what, a minor shoulder separation or something.
Yeah, or sprain. I don't know, AC joints. I wish Dr.
Yeah.
Mello was here. She'd make us sound a lot smarter than we are right now. But negative X-rays, I will take that as a good thing.
Absolutely. And then
Anything
we'll wait.
else?
We'll wait and see what happens with Ramsey. Obviously.
Right, the hamstring. Those hamstrings are tricky. Porter's missed a bunch of games. We'll see. I don't know what to make of it right now, but not feeling great about his odds playing Week 6 against the Cleveland Browns. Any other, I don't know, overall quarter thoughts here, Dave?
Well, first of all, I did have this team going 3-1 through the first 4 games, but it hasn't looked anything like I thought it would look like along the way of 3-1. And that, once again, that's what makes going back to what Matthew Stafford said. Pip said after the game last night was, football's such an imperfect game, and a lot of things happen within a game that dictate the flow and the outcome and plays like that. This isn't the way I visualize them getting to 3-1, but they are 3-1. And I think one of the positives that we kind of ended the show with the other day was defense specifically here. I mean, you've won the games that you're probably supposed to win, and you did so with losing Deshaun Elliott and Joey Porter early on. You obviously haven't had Alex Highsmith for a couple of games now. You've had some. You didn't have Derek Harmon in the first 2 games. You kind of wonder, you mix and match some of these inside linebackers with the Holcomb and the Peyton Wilson a little bit more than probably what we envisioned coming out of this thing. But here they are. They're 3-1, and you hope to get at some point your full complement of this defense back, back together and playing. And they still, without that full complement, they've still managed the 10 takeaways and the 14 sacks, right?
Is Pittsburgh better than their 3-1 record, worse than their 3-1 record, or accurate in their 3-1 record?
I think they're a 2-2 team that's 3-1.
Okay, so a little bit worse than what their record indicates, and you base that off of
the New England game mostly.
But people say that turnovers, and you're not saying this, but people say
no, they're not lucky. You make your own
Right.
luck, because if you don't do anything to try to get that ball out, the ball doesn't come out.
it's a culture thing, and Pittsburgh
Right.
has really ingrained that well. I think Troy Lawson deserves credit for it. I know it's a dirty word to say around here to give the guy credit, but he has really instituted a lot of that turnover circuit stuff they do in practice.
And look, I don't want to play the what if game, but if the kickoff to Caleb Johnson doesn't go that way, what happens after that? Is Aaron Rodgers put in a position where he can drive him down and win the game potentially, or at least send it into overtime? Yada yada. So that was a big mistake. And once again, that was a 10-point swing. You go from them kicking the field goal to them kicking off to them being 10 points up, right?
Right. So why do you say that they're 2-2? Because it seems like you're implying a couple bounces go Pittsburgh.
Sure,
Pittsburgh's way they could be 4-0.
Right. My arm could be twisted, but
Okay.
I just, from what I've seen on tape, I consider them a 2-2 team that's 3-1.
Yeah, they're kind of at, I think, a crossroads, because if they can play like the Minnesota game, they're a 3-1 team, maybe even better. But if they're playing more like how they were playing those first couple games, then it feels more like, 2-2 maybe feels a little more like it fits them better than 3-1. I know it's a difficult question to answer here in the bye week, just kind of giving some different perspectives. But I think Pittsburgh's really at kind of an inflection point out of the bye. Can they keep this thing going? Can they continue to play as well as they did against Minnesota? It's not always going to be perfect. Like I said before, seasons ebb and flow. You'll have dud games. You'll have great games throughout the course of a season. But really kind of telling to see how Pittsburgh can carry this into week 5, which will be important divisional play. And, one guy I'm going to be watching, we already have been watching closely, but Broderick Jones. Talk about the matchups he's got coming up. Myles Garrett, week 5, week 6. Trey Hendrickson, week 7. Then Micah Parsons, the other pass rushers too, Rashawn Gary in week 8 against Green Bay. So he'll get some help, I assume. Not going to be doing this job solo, but those are 5-star matchups across the board.
I tell you why I'm real interested to watch this Cleveland game too, because look, Minnesota's beat up. Myles Garrett might come back from London wearing Carson Wentz as a hat. In this,
they do have Darrisaw though. At least their left tackle is one of the healthy guys.
But Myles Garrett moves around too, and he can get it done up both sides. And they're going to be down, I think, 3 two or three offensive linemen in this game. They're not going to have the center. They're not going to have Brian with O'Neill at
The right
right
tackle.
tackle, and then I think another one of their backup offensive linemen is going to miss this game, and then obviously that rookie left guard is going to miss the game as well too. And we know the strengths and weaknesses of what I'm getting at here is the thing that I want to learn from this game that I think is going to apply heavily to the Steelers when they play the Browns is you can't expect to win this game without moving Aaron Rodgers out of the pocket.
But how much do you do that for a 41-year-old quarterback
Yeah.
who is not fleet of foot, and they've really not done a whole lot of. They did some in week 1, some boots, but that was about it.
Well, A, you better limit the amount of dropbacks by being able to run the football against a good run defense. And then second, you're just going to have to do it. Yeah, because your things are not going to go well, I don't think, for this offense if Aaron Rodgers is not moved out of the pocket. And why circling
But how do
this
you
back,
do that? How do you do?
you're just
'Cause I
going to
don't
have
like.
to you're going to have to boot him. You're
I
just
don't
going to
like
have to
using
boot
play
him.
action. I don't even like booting away because whenever you boot away, you're trying to give that appearance of a run block, and Garrett's able to turn the corner. I I
You're
don't
going
I
to
don't
have
like using
to.
play action at all.
Well, the only other way around that is you're going to have to max protect
Yeah.
on whatever side that Myles Garrett's on, and they've got pretty good pass rushers opposite. They're getting it done outside of just Myles Garrett as well too. So simply, going after Myles Garrett with max protection might not be enough.
Well, it's a start, and I'll let other guys, win, and as long as Garrett's not wrecking the game, that's the whole key. He's got 4
And
sacks.
the other way out of that obviously is to continue to ball out quick too.
Yeah, RPO, quick game, and running the ball, as you said, staying
Right.
on schedule is paramount.
Right. But one thing that I think is going to be interesting to watch Sunday morning here is what do the Vikings do with Carson Wentz due to the same other than the offensive line being beat up, the same set of variables. You got he's more mobile than Aaron Rodgers, but he's also not a guy that's going to crush you scrambling per se. So are they going to do things to get him on the move out of the pocket? And what can the Steelers take away from that, either with a quick game? Because I'm not convinced they're going to be able to run on that Browns defense
Yeah.
either. So I think there are things to be learned on the offensive side of football by watching what Minnesota tries to do offensively with Carson Wentz.
Sure, you take in that game, take advantage of the bye week, the time off, and see how it looks. I'm with you.
All right. So I don't know how we got to this point here, but all right, where to from here?
I think that's basically all I had to offer here. I'm trying to see if any other news came in, but anything else on your mind, Dave? Feel free.
I mean, look, obviously, I would like to see this offense be able to continue to run, build on what they did in this game against Minnesota offensively. Secondly, if this team gets Alex Highsmith back after the bye, you still got to figure out a way to either get all three on the field. And I think you wrote about this, or somebody wrote about this morning on the site. You got to figure out a way to have Herbig on the field. A good amount of snaps, either part of a 3 outside linebacker, Bronco type package, or Herbig on the field in some must pass rush situations.
Right, they've done that in those obvious pass situations, though they brought all 3 out whenever all 3 have been healthy, which unfortunately has not been often these last 2 years since they implemented that Bronco package. Who starts in this Week 6 game if Highsmith is healthy and cleared?
I think Highsmith starts because I think Cleveland's going to come out wanting to run the football. Because look, they're banged up on it, and look, we don't even know what kind of attrition might happen to them in this game. But Judkins seems like a more than capable running back. I would think that Cleveland's going to try to protect their young quarterback as much as they can in these first couple of games as well too. So I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong. You asked me who do I think is going to start. I think Highsmith's going to start.
I think so too. I think they're not going to make that depth chart change, but they certainly will have an effort to get Herbig on the field. I'm curious on the rotation. Will Highsmith return and play his usual amount of snaps with Herbig rotating in? it's hard to think it's going to be that kind of split again. I think it's going to be something more akin to a 50-50 type of split. And does Pittsburgh use Herbig on more passing downs? Not to
Right.
discredit Highsmith. Highsmith can certainly rush the passer, but Herbig makes his money on those downs. Now, again, I don't want to put those guys in the buckets. Herbig can play the run better than people think, and Highsmith can certainly rush the passer. I don't want to say that Herbig's just a pass rusher and Highsmith is just a run stopper, but I wonder if Pittsburgh changes their model a little bit to find ways to get Herbig more snaps, even beyond the 3 outside linebacker package.
Man, I think especially if you get in a 3rd and 6 or greater situation, you really got to think about putting Herbig on the field.
Yeah, well, that's usually when they use that Bronco package in 3rd and 6, but I wonder, they can't do that every single
No.
3rd down situation, you wouldn't think, so.
But even if you have 2 on the field and it's 3rd and 6 or more, you better, because of Herbie's just so quick, and the longer that a quarterback has to hold on to a football, it plays into Herbig's favor with less attention to his side than a TJ Watt, and then plus he ball hunts better than Alex Highsmith does.
Yeah, I mean, I think they all ball hunt, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Herbig, he's learned that under TJ Watt, those guys are glued to the hip during training camp. You see those guys warm up each day in practice. So he's gotten to learn from a guy that's ball hunted as well as anyone in TJ Watt with 34 or something, 35 forced fumbles in his career. They ran that so diabolical, that fake stunt that Herbig ran on the last play of the Minnesota game. Darisaw was almost fooled by it. He saw it last second, but you really kind of seen some fun, creative stuff schematically, and then Herbig individually. I don't know if that's a him thing or if that's kind of a taught thing by the coaching staff to fake the stunt after Herbig had gotten the pressure and the intentional grounding on Wentz a couple plays earlier, running the stunt. He fakes it and almost fools Darisaw. That stuff just really has me geeked because you can do some fun stuff with this pass rush to really wreak havoc on offensive lines.
Especially if they get this complement of guys back on defense and get actually the guys that they intended to start the season with on defense playing full games with those guys,
That'd be nice. That'd be nice. I mean, I think it'll be close to that for this game. Porter should come back. Elliott's back. Highsmith will hopefully be back. The one guy to watch is Ramsey, which I'm less confident he's going to be able to go in this one. But even if you have Porter and Slay and Eccles, it's still a good top 3 corners. And let's be honest, Cleveland's passing game is not the most ferocious, and they lost Tillman for this game. So you can certainly win with those corners against Cleveland.
Uh-huh.
All right, Dave, any other final thoughts here?
No, I think should we start getting into the games?
Yeah, just last thing, wrote the article. I'd mentioned this, I forget, on a podcast or on the live stream about Dan Rooney, who really was integral in the Ireland trip, the planning there. And they're calling him Dan Rooney. I know he shares the same name as the late and ambassador Dan Rooney. We previously called him Daniel Martin Rooney. There's been some other articles that refer to him as Dan Rooney III, but he's the likely successor to Art Rooney II, and we talked about all the airtime he got leading up to the Dublin game, and he certainly played a big role in getting Pittsburgh to Ireland and planning all that kind of stuff, so he certainly deserved the airtime, but we agreed that it was not a coincidence Pittsburgh gave him a lot of media time as kind of a look towards this is the future of who will be the day-to-day owner and president of the Pittsburgh Steelers in the not-too-distant future. So wrote about Dan Rooney and kind of what might be coming down the road.
Yeah, I wonder how far we are actually away now at this point,
Art Rooney had talked about last year he had no deadline, no intention to retire anytime soon, but he is 73. I think Dan Rooney, the late Dan Rooney, was 70 whenever he gave up kind of the presidency title and passed that down to Art Rooney the second. So we're already past that point. I would imagine by the end of the decade, we're going to see that transition.
All right.
All right, Dave, let's, before we make our picks for week 3, let's hear from our friends over at MyBookie.
All right. Obviously, excited to have MyBookie back with us, sponsoring our Friday show of the Terrible Podcast, where we do all of our picks against the spread. Look, you know that one You know that one guy in the group chat who hit a 5-leg parlay week 1 and wouldn't shut up about it the rest of the season? Yeah, that could be you. My bookie makes it stupid easy to get in on the action. College football, NFL, their super contest, and survivor pools. They've got it all. All the spreads, player props, and in-game lines you could want, all under one roof at mybookie.ag. And if you're new to MyBookie, you can use our promo code, and any bet you choose up to $500 is fully covered by using the promo code terrible at sign up. What does that mean? That means you make your play, and if it doesn't hit, you get it right back when you opt in using your bet back bonus token offered at sign up. No better time to jump in, no better place to bet to play. So it's mybookie.ag. If you're a first-time user, go use promo code terrible, and any bet you choose up to $500 is fully covered. You make that play, and then you opt in using your bet back bonus token. So football's back. Let's make some money together with MyBookie, mybookie.ag. And once again, don't forget about their NFL kickoff and bet back bonus using promo code terrible.
All right, I want to thank our friends at MyBookie for their continued sponsorship. We are both 0-1 to start the week. We both were suckered by that 8-point line in the Rams game last night against the beat-up 49ers team. A fun game, but not unless you were taking the 8 for the Rams, because we are both 0-1.
We are, and let's move on to early Sunday morning with the Browns and the Vikings playing over in London. The Vikings are 3.5-point favorites in this game in London. What say you, Alex? With Dylan Gabriel at quarterback for the Cleveland Browns.
This one's tough because, like you said, Minnesota's got a ton of injuries. Van Ginkel's still going to be out. The offensive line is a mess. The Browns' defense is good, but Gabriel against Brian Flores, week 1. I know those changes in quarterbacks can provide sparks. Look at Dart against a tough Chargers defense last week. Man, this one's tough. I'm going to go the Browns. I'm going to take the Browns in this one, Dave.
I don't know why I have this sort of, and it's sacrilegious to say, why I kind of somehow kind of rooting for Dylan Gabriel. He's undersized. Everything's against him. Brian Flores defense and all. He's got Sheduer Sanders, who I imagine is hate watching from the sideline. Here's what I worry about. I everything involved with the rookie quarterback, and we know Brian Flores and all like that. They have been leaky against the run, I think, at times this year. I do wonder if Cleveland will have some success there to try to hide Dylan Gabriel a little bit. And the biggest thing I can't get over with is how banged up that Vikings offensive line is. Wentz is wincing still, probably from being banged up against the Steelers there. I do wonder if Myles Garrett might actually be wearing Wentz as a hat when he returns from London. I think the Vikings win this game, but I think it's a field goal game over in London. So I'm with you. I'll take the Browns for some strange reason, plus 3.5. I won't be shocked if they win this game. And I think that's probably what you're insinuating is all. So I'm with you. Give me Browns plus 3.5. I hope they lose, though. All right. Carolina Panthers hosting the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins, coming off of a big win against the Jets, are 1-point road favorites against the Panthers.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins can ride this wave a little bit even without Tyreek Hill. Give me Miami.
I'll take Miami, lay the 1 point in this. I think that one ends up being a field goal game as well, too. How about the Colts at home hosting the Las Vegas Raiders? Colts are 7-point home favorites against the Raiders.
Tough loss for the Colts. A lot of mistakes there, self-inflicted wounds, dropping the football through the end zone. The Raiders are in a lot of trouble. Genty had a good game, but Geno Smith's doing a bunch of picks. There's already calls for Kenny Pickett to start. Give me the Colts.
I think the Colts win this. I think the Raiders keep it close. I'll give the 7. I'll take the 7 points on the road there. Raiders plus 7. How about the Saints at home against the G-Men? The Saints are 2-point home favorites in this one.
No Neighbors, obviously a big blow there. The Saints have been a little bit better than I think, even though they're yet to win a game. Give me the Giants.
I call this the Scatabo factor.
Mm.
Give me the Giants plus the 2 points. I think the Giants win this one outright. In what should be an entertaining game, perhaps maybe one of the better ones on the slate this week, the Philadelphia Eagles that hasn't looked like themselves on offense so far. 3.5-point home favorites against the Broncos, who's coming off of a very dominating performance against the Bengals.
It's great Broncos defense. I'm still waiting for Bo Nix to take that leap. Some strides against the Bengals, but they were the Bengals. I think A.J. Brown is a big game. I know he's been unhappy with his role and lack of involvement. I think they're going to find ways to feed him the football, but facing Surtain and that tough defense, give me the Eagles. I always seem to find a way.
Yeah, I think the Broncos is going to be the popular pick here, plus the 3.5 points. I think the Eagles get some things straightened out, be able to maybe run the ball in this game, look a little bit better offensively. I'll take the Eagles with you and lay the 3.5 points. You said Eagles, right?
Yeah, I said Eagles. Yeah.
Okay. How about the Jets hosting the Cowboys? The Cowboys 2.5-point road favorites.
Jets are favorites over
No,
the
no,
Cowboys.
Cowboys are
Oh,
road
Cowboys.
favorites,
Okay.
2.5 points.
Yeah, I had that. I was going to say. I will take Dallas.
Yeah, Dak alone should be able to get you through this game, I think. I know they're probably not going to have CD Lamb or whatnot, but I'll take the Cowboys later 2.5 in this. All right, 1-3 teams square off in Baltimore. The Houston Texans travel to Baltimore. They're now 2.5-point road favorites. The Texans are, and the Ravens injury report, man, looks like a mess.
Because it is a mess. It's a disaster. And on paper, you sit there and say Houston's going to take this game because the Ravens are so beat up. But I do look at the way the Niners won with all their injuries. I know the Texans still need this win in a bad way, too. They're both, like you said, 1-3. I think Baltimore finds a way to pull it out. I don't know how they're going to do it. It's not going to be easy, but they're going to overcome.
Yeah, I just don't trust the Ravens quarterback situation in this. I think the Texans will do just enough to win by a field goal. So I'll take the Texans later, 2.5 here. How about the Titans on the road against the Arizona Cardinals? Cardinals 7.5-point home favorites against the Titans.
It's a big line for a Cardinals team that's not been amazing with a ton of running back injuries. No James Conner, no Trey Benson. Harrison's been up and down, but the Titans are a complete mess. Callahan's going to get fired. He may be the first head coach fired this season. I'll take Arizona.
I'll take Arizona lay that 7.5 number as well, too, for a lot of reasons you just mentioned. The Seattle Seahawks are hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Seahawks are 3.5-point home favorites. The Seahawks played well under Mike McDonald on the road, not so much at home for some reason, but they are favored 3.5 points at home against the Buccaneers.
Give me Seattle, Tampa Bay. I know I just talked about injuries, but the Bucs have a bunch of injuries. No Bucky Irving. I think Mike Evans is going to be out of this game. Some other guys missing. Some cornerback issues. Give me Seattle.
All right, I'm with you. We match up on a lot of these. Only a few differences so far. I'll take the Seahawks later 3.5. How about the Bengals at home against the Lions? The Lions 10.5-point road favorites over the Bengals.
Big line, but rightfully so. I feel like I'm too chalk this week, but give me Detroit.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll lay that 10.5 points in this one as well, too, with the Lions. How about the Chargers hosting the Commanders, who should have Daniels back this week, right? Even so, I don't think they're going to have. Well, they're going to have McLaren. It doesn't sound like it, right?
No, he's been ruled out. I'm pretty sure.
All right. The Chargers laying 3 points at home against the Commanders.
Give me Washington. Daniels back, even with some of the injuries. I know Debo's hurt, but they're going to find a way here. Give me the Commanders.
Give me Herbert and company. I'll take the Chargers later 3. The Buffalo Bills. This one could end up being an entertaining game. The Bills at home against the Patriots. Who are the Patriots? We're going to find out on Sunday. The Bills are 7.5-point home favorites in a divisional game against the Patriots.
This is a night game. This is a Sunday night game.
Yes, 8:20.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one. Divisional game. Patriots better. Bills defense still got issues. Didn't play a great game against the Saints last week. Give me the Patriots to at least cover.
I'm with you. I'll take the Patriots to at least cover in this one. And then that brings us to what? Monday night, the Jacksonville Jaguars hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are 3-point road favorites against the Jaguars.
Yeah, it's an interesting matchup. What is Jacksonville's had they're 3-1. I mean, their defense I think is playing well. They're number 5 defense in football. I think it's kind of flying under the radar. Granted, their schedule's not been terribly impressive. Carolina, Cincinnati, Houston, San Francisco. This will be a really good test. The Chiefs coming off a great game. Can they roll that? What's the line? 3?
3-3. Chiefs on the road favored by 3.
Something saying go Jacksonville. I'm gonna go Jacksonville.
I'll take Chiefs, lay the 3 points here. All right, I think that's got us through the games there. What do you think about the new Taylor Swift album? Got to ask you.
Hadn't listened to Life of a Showgirl yet. I listened to the podcast whenever she debuted the album on New Heights with the Kelsey, Travis and Jason Kelsey. It was a great interview. I think she's super fun to listen to.
Do you want me to edit this out?
I don't care. I mean, it's just not. I don't listen to Taylor Swift. It's
Okay.
not. Have you listened yet, Dave?
I mean, I like a couple of her catchy songs, but that's about where it ends.
What are you listening to lately? You listen to music whenever you're working?
I mean,
What's kinda your-
I'm listening to a lot more music than normal. Getting back into some old Keel, Keel.
What genre is that? I'm not familiar.
No, that's mid to late 80s stuff there. Ron Keel, his band that he had. What else am I listening to? I'm trying to find. I'm getting in tune with some very obscure 80s hard rock, hair metal. Those bands that had albums that came out right as grunge was starting to hit, that unfortunately they had a couple of good songs that nobody ever heard of. I'm diving deeper into that right now. So yeah, I'm down the Keel rabbit hole right now, listening to a lot of old Keel.
Well, how do you listen? Is it YouTube? Is it Spotify? Do you have a
Both. If
boombox? I don't know what you got going over there.
if I'm in front of the computer, I'll just just do something. I've been listening to a lot of Foo Fighters lately again.
Ooh, I'm a Foo Fighters fan.
Back
I'm
on
with you.
that a little bit there. If I'm in the car, I've got some playlists that I listen to, and but mostly YouTube and Spotify, I guess.
What's the last concert you attended?
Iron Maiden here in Vegas right after I got here.
Okay, it's been a little bit. Do you have any plans?
Yeah.
You gonna go again? I know that there's other people out there, and that's a no go for you. But
I don't do well in crowds. It's really got to be something. I think Judas Priest is coming, but I think that's happening during the season. I don't think I'm going to be able to make that. So, I've got a lot of T-shirts in the closet, a lot of memories
right.
from there. So it really has to be a band that I really want to see or
Sure.
something.
Fair enough. All right, good deal.
All right, shall we get to some emails here?
Yeah, let's get to some emails and close out today's show.
All right, let's see what we have here. Bryce is back in here. Wild win in Dublin, but I'll take it. Some thoughts Alex tweeted at you the other day, and I'll ask both of you. I've said this before. We've talked a lot about Najee too high in 2021, but we don't talk enough about the second pick in that 2000 draft. So was Sunday essentially a benching? If top safeties just said, I've got 88 the whole game, would you bet your house that 88 could still get you 6 for 60 or 70 yards? I'm not so sure. What are your thoughts? So basically, he's wanting our opinion on Pat Freiermuth at this point. The second part of this question is, I didn't think I'd ever be floating this idea, but instead of this talk about trading Highsmith, is it actually possible that the Steelers should entertain trading Freiermuth in exchange for an upgrade at wide receiver? So another kind of tight end question about Pat Freiermuth. First and foremost, I think when you look at this offense overall and the usage of not only Freiermuth or Johnny Smith, you got to look at game circumstances. You got to look at number of snaps run. You've got to look at possession of the football and all like that. I think there's going to be games moving forward, at least I think there are, where you're going to rely on your tight ends a little bit more in the passing game. Additionally, when this team has used 12 personnel so far, they have a pass rate of 58.24% so far. So they are passing a lot heavier than what probably that 58.24%, I think many of us thought would probably be the run rate out of 12 so far here.
Well, they've been passing. They've been in 12 personnel on a third down pass situations. They don't go 11 the way that most teams do in third and 7 plus. I don't know the exact numbers on that, but I'd venture to guess they're in 12 quite a bit.
Right. And in 11, at least traditional 11, they have passed 66.2% of the time on top of that. So I guess long story short, I mean, small sample size and all like that. I will say this. If you, as an offensive coordinator, believe that your second best blocking tight end is Spencer Anderson, then that tells you a lot about what you think about your tight ends in the run game overall. Look, Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith are not great blocking tight ends. They're going to have to find a way when they use 12 personnel at some point to run the football better with either Pat Freiermuth or Jonnu Smith, hopefully on the field with Darnell Washington, right? I think, look, I mean, Pat Freiermuth, to use him in the passing game effectively, it's not going to be on quick hits and all like that. It's going to have to be utilizing him down the football field further than 4 yards past the line of scrimmage. Other than that, you're going to be using him in zone type situations where he's settling, and his average depth of target is 4 or 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. So they're going to have to find out ways of utilizing him in the passing game and Jonnu Smith both vertically more. Is this any sort of an indictment on Freiermuth's abilities through 4 games?
No, I don't want to say it's an indictment. I mean, he had success last year. I've just made the comment that in this offense, Metcalf's going to get his targets, and everyone else is going to have to kind of get the crumbs that are spread out across the board. Rodgers is spreading the ball around. They're not running a lot of plays. Obviously, the ball's getting out really quick, and they're not throwing vertically. It's hard, on those RPOs, the tight end's not often getting the ball in Pittsburgh's system. So let's just keep watching. I'm not looking to trade Freiermuth for a receiver, a number 3 receiver. Once Austin gets healthy and an Arthur Smith offense is even less used than a tight end than Freiermuth has been so far. So, there's still depth, and I think Freiermuth will play a role and have his games where he's able to make plays. He had some clutch plays in week 1 against the Jets. He's got a game against the Bengals coming up, and he loves playing Cincinnati. So we'll see if he comes alive. Then at some point he'll have his game, and he'll be happy that he's here. So, he signed him a contract extension before last year. I'm not in the business of trading those guys super quick. He's been a really good teammate. I think that's an underrated part. He's been a really rock solid teammate. He's been working on that since last summer. You see that in training camp. You see a selfless play from him. You see him getting fired up after DK's touchdown, one of the clips the team showed. So I'm going to keep it as is. Hope for more production. Needs to happen, of course. But, Johnny barely played against Minnesota. The plan was clearly to have the big people in this game. There'll be times where that's not always the plan or can't always be the plan. And you'll be happy to have guys like Smith and Freiermuth out there.
Look, I mean, you just can't throw out the fact that through the first 4 seasons, even with the amount of games that he had missed in 2023 and all like that, this is still a tight end that's averaged, a little over 50 catches a season. Is anybody under the assumption that Freiermuth is ever going to be an 80 or 90 catch guy tight end in the NFL? I don't think so. I think we've seen the good and the bad of Pat Freiermuth. You go back to 2022 where he caught 63 balls on 98 targets and had 11.6 yards per reception. And then you go to his rookie season where it was just an 8.3 yards per reception. And then you look at depth of target, how that's kind of varied over the course of the 4 years. He is a guy that can give you red zone production as well, too.
And had Calvin Austin not stepped in front of that pass against Seattle, we're having a different conversation. That's probably a touchdown.
Maybe, yeah. At worst, it's an incompletion,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is Freiermuth still is what he has been as a player and his abilities. It's just that what this offense has run so far has not been uh complementary to some of the things that he does well in offenses, right?
That's good framing. It is a little bit weird, though, because Arthur Smith is known as the tight end guy, and
Right.
Freiermuth got his touches last year, so I don't know why they're struggling that much. But when the ball's getting out in 2.5 seconds and the backs are catching a lot, it's just not always been there for the tight ends. So I think it'll come. You want a fun, I'm doing air quotes, fun stat to look at? Go look at what Jonnu Smith's average depth of target is
Oh, it's
this
low.
season. What do you think it is, if you haven't looked it up?
It's like 2 point something, isn't it?
Go look it up. Go look up what Johnny Smith's average depth of target is, and tell the fine folks.
Let's see here. Stats, receiving. Let me do a quick search here for
He's got
Johnny.
14 receptions on the season, so it's a smaller sample size, but it's not 3 catches. And that's not even targets. I don't know how many targets he has, 20 or so.
Oh, I don't have it in front of me on next gen here because he doesn't have, I don't think, the minimum amount of.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you.
Oh, wait. 0.5.
Yeah, it's the smallest. It's the next closest non-running
Wow.
back in average depth of target is Chigakonkwo, the tight end in Tennessee, at like 4.2, and Smith's sitting at half a yard, which is crazy for an athletic guy like him. I've not seen a player's number that low at any point in their season.
And how many catches? I mean, you got the pop pass for the touchdown. It was behind the line of scrimmage, so that's negative air yards. How many of his catches? I imagine quite a few have been behind the line of scrimmage.
I mean, they have to be at an average depth of target. Like, that's been a lot of screen game. But he has a 21-yard reception. He has a downfield catch this year, and his average depth of target is still that low 16 total targets. So, again, these numbers will change. It's not going to be 0.4, 0.5 the entire season. But I looked at that the other day and had to laugh at it going, man, that's a running back number.
And what is Freiermuth?
It's a good question. I was thinking about what Freiermuth is. It's got to be higher because he's not in the screen game the way that Jonnu Smith is. It is 7.3. So actually, it's above where it was last season.
All right. And look, I mean, I understand. And once again, this kind of goes back to at the start of the show here. Everybody wants everything at one time. They want to be able to run the football. They want the tight ends to get the ball. They want DK Metcalf to have his and all like that. And they're having to mix and match personnels because they're not a traditional throw out the 12 personnel type team and get it done in all areas. That's why you're seeing Spencer Anderson having to play like he's having to play. And then obviously the passing game has been a quick, get the ball out, short, crisp passing game.
I think Pittsburgh's still trying to figure out how to best balance and utilize all these guys too. The addition of Johnny Smith as a bona fide third tight end, Spencer Anderson as sixth offensive lineman. I think they're still trying to figure out the best way to use these guys. But like you said, just get a game where Pittsburgh can run 65 plays, not this 49, 53 snap stuff, where you can get a good volume and kind of get more guys involved.
All right, Brett now has a question. Alex said on the podcast in the past that the offensive line coach is the de facto run game coordinator, to a degree designing the run plays. However, Arthur Smith is known as a running game guy. So my question is, who is in charge? Who gets the blame, credit when the running game works or doesn't work?
It's a good question. I was going to bring it up in our conversation. Yeah, that's how it's worked under Pittsburgh in the past, because usually the offensive coordinators had more of a pass game background. Think about Todd Haley, Randy Fietner, Matt Canada. They were all pass game quarterback, receiver type of coaches. It's a good question. I don't know how it's working with Arthur Smith, who former offensive line coach, former offensive lineman himself in college, former tight ends coach. I imagine he's certainly having a much bigger impact and role and influence in the run game, not just from his background, but also his experience, his resume, a former head coach. He's not just some sort of young up-and-comer in the first time in the job. So that is fair. And it makes it harder to maybe put some of the blame on Pat Meyer, but I could still look at the offensive line as a unit and say they're not good enough and still probably attribute some of that to Pat Meyer. But it's a fair point and a really good question that I can't answer with any confidence, other than to say I would imagine that Smith certainly has a bigger influence than maybe past OCs have had in designing the run game.
All right, Matt Suddeth from Warren, Michigan. My family roots, old stomping ground. Love the podcast, love the site. Thank you for the hard work and dedication of bringing us the latest insights on the Steelers. It is very much appreciated. At the beginning of the year, I expected the Steelers to use their tight ends much more in their passing game, creating mismatches with different formations. It doesn't appear that has happened as of yet. Do you agree that there has been lack of inclusion of the tight ends in the passing game? Do you expect the tight ends role to increase? And when do you think, now that we are 4 games into the season, the real preseason, the Steelers will be more cohesive on offense? This all being said, with Rodgers being in the league leaders of touchdown passes. We sort of hit on that, kind of talking about a lot of different things, I guess, in this show. I think the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to, and Alex has hit on this, and really Alex, who charts the defense, is looking for this as well, too. We just want to see a game where the Steelers offense runs 65, 68, 72 offensive plays in a game, has the time of possession on their side to work with, where you're getting more volume overall. I think the fact that this team has won 3 games with how the offense, with what the presumed identity looks like so far, is an accomplishment in and of itself. Did I expect the tight ends to be used more in the passing game through 4 games so far? My answer would be yes. Ideally, I like to think of offenses like Arthur Smith likes to run with 12 and 13 personnel, being able to win it in both the run and passing game out of those formations. I'm a bit surprised even the 12 personnel hasn't even been a tick higher percentage wise than what it's been. That 11's actually been used as much as it has been. But once again, we're dealing with the small, technically, an average of what, like 52.25 offensive plays run a game. And technically, I guess 2 kneel downs a game. So you're running 52 offensive plays on average through 4 games is just not a lot of plays.
It's not. It's a really low number. And to be more specific to the football gods, yes, I want a game where Pittsburgh's offense runs 68 plays, but I want one where the opposing offense is not running 68 plays, because that'll turn into a game where Pittsburgh runs 68 plays and the opposing offense runs 68 plays in sort of college shootout. And I like to chart less would be nice. But yeah, that's certainly a fair point. I don't think the tight ends have been involved less than they should be. They're totaling about 1/3 of the receptions. I imagine about 1/3 of the targets as well. They just have been used so much in the short game. There's been nothing downfield aside from the one Johnny Smith catch. And so I'm looking for those guys to be used a bit differently going forward. But their involvement they've been involved. I mean, Frymouth is, this game
Look
aside.
at that. Remember, this, and people say, well, that's another reason why Pat Frymouth sucks. But I mean, the deep ball on the play that Calvin Austin was held on against was that the Seahawks or the Patriots game?
Which play are you talking about?
The one that the deep ball that Aaron rolled out on
the Frymouth dropped.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. I got you. That was against Seattle.
I mean, you can't. I mean, that's more than 20 yards down the field,
Sure.
and it's dropped right in the bucket there. So he was definitely used on that play, even though it was going to, kind of
it was a scramble drill.
Yeah, it was an extended play type situation, but he was still targeted down the field in that situation. It's a ball he should have caught.
Yes, he's got to make that catch. I'm not questioning that. But I just think schematically, and it's not just Frymouth, it's Jonnu Smith too. His ADOT is half a yard. I mean, that's ridiculous. So there's got to be. He's an athletic guy. I'm saying tight ends, big picture, have to be used more. There's not going to be 40-yard bombs, but give me a 10-yard completion. I mean, at this point, I'm dying for it.
Right. Look, once again, this team is 3-1. They're not it has not looked like what I envisioned it would look like to be 3-1. So, and I think that goes for most people at this point.
Yeah, largely, but I mean, lately it's looked a little bit more like you thought it would with a really, this Minnesota game was kind of the division of what it was supposed to be. Really good run defense, splashy defense, running the ball, staying on schedule, Rodgers being point guard. That's the blueprint. I mean, so we did see that in the Minnesota game.
All right, not really a question here, but got an email from Jeff Kinney with an image that nobody can see. Top of the morning to Yin's old friends, Mr. O'Brien and Mr. O. Kozora. Love the terrible podcast and the Steelers Depot site. Years ago, an old Irish friend gave me the attached stone, and I've never worried since, especially about the Steelers. I thought you guys might enjoy it. He's got a picture of, it looks like Conmera marble, and it's an Irish worry stone. Rub this stone, let your worries disappear. So he wanted to pass along an
Thank you.
Irish no worry stone there. Let's see if I got anything else here. I think that's got the few emails that are in here. Kind of a disjointed show, I guess, if you will. Once again, the good thing is we're talking. Today's show has been about a 3-1 Steelers team atop the AFC North that's on the bye. And we're not talking about, he posted this on Instagram. The locker room's this, there's this, that, the other, all the talks about can the Ravens afford to be 1-4? Look at the injuries the Ravens have. All the talks on can the Bengals offense be any worse than they were in that game against the Denver Broncos? And the Cleveland Browns are having to start a 5'4".
Don't be nice to our short kings.
Look, I like I said, I'm gonna get in trouble for this. I'm kind of rooting for the little fella.
All right. That sounds very passive aggressive.
This
Dylan
week
Gabriel.
here, I just what I'm also rooting for is for Myles Garrett not to come home with Carson Wentz wearing Carson Wentz as a hat on this. So we've had worse bye weeks that we've had to had Seinfeld shows. Well, there actually weren't Seinfeld shows where we're having to talk about things like this. So, not the greatest college slate. I don't think on on docket this week, but I'll be watching every last one of them on YouTube TV. It's unfortunate that Indiana quarterback doesn't play this week. I was really looking forward to maybe watching him, but I'll be watching the college ball, and I'll be up and at 'em early on Sunday morning with my tea and crumpets, watching the Browns and the Vikings and every other game imaginable. And whatever happens this weekend, if it's relevant, we will have post up on SteelersDepot.com. We hope to entertain you with some other original content as well. I think Alex has got a couple of things planned for this weekend as well too to go up on the site. So until Monday, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button. Follow the directions that way. Get a username and password. Then hit the login button to use that username and password to take advantage of the ad-free version of the site. Happy weekend. Enjoy the weekend. Have a safe weekend. Thanks for listening. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.